He had everything: private jets, penthouse views, a name etched into hospitals and boardrooms across America. Ethan Walker was the kind of billionaire people whispered about, but never truly knew. Calculated, untouchable, emotionless, until one frozen morning on Washington Street, when four little girls selling $5 flower bouquets made him stop dead in his tracks. They weren't just any girls. They had her face, Claire. The woman he'd cast out of his life a decade ago. The woman he'd sworn was lying. The woman he hadn't seen since she looked him in the eye and said, "I'm pregnant, Ethan, and they're yours." What do you do when the ghosts of your past aren't ghosts at all, when they're real, breathing and staring back at you with eyes that look exactly like yours? This isn't a story about wealth. It's a story about everything money can't fix. Because sometimes the past doesn't knock. It sends four little girls to sell flowers in the cold. And when one of them whispers, "You look like the man in mommy's picture box," you'll never be the same again. Don't blink. This story's about to break your heart and maybe put it back together. Ethan Walker never believed in fate, miracles, or ghosts. At 53, he believed in stock prices, acquisition strategies, and the kind of loyalty money could buy. But that morning, as the elevator doors opened to Washington Street in Boston and the bitter wind sliced through his designer wool coat, something made him stop cold. It wasn't the weather, it was them. Four little girls, no older than 9, sat on overturned crates near the corner of 8th and Washington. They were bundled in mismatched coats, 2 sizes too big. Their hands raw from the cold. Each held a plastic bucket filled with flower bouquets, daisies, carnations, baby's breath. A cardboard sign scrawled in crayon read, "Hope Bouquets, $5 for Mom." Ethan would have walked past like he always did. The world outside his penthouse rarely pierced him, but something about the way the girls huddled together, as if guarding each other from the wind, and the world caught his eye. And then it happened. One of the girls looked up, those eyes green-gray, flecked with gold. Wide-set, alert, familiar. Too familiar. His breath snagged, his mind splintered. That face, he hadn't seen it in 10 years, Claire. But it wasn't Claire. It couldn't be. Claire was gone, wasn't she? He blinked and suddenly there were 4 of them. 4 little girls with Claire's jawline, Claire's chin, Claire's fire, quadruplets. "Sir." The one who looked up stepped forward, cradling a bouquet in knit gloves with holes in the fingertips. Her voice was soft, but it broke something inside him. "Would you like to buy some flowers? They're for our mom. Just $5. What would you do in that moment? Would you believe your eyes or your memory? He fumbled through his wallet. Nothing but $100 bills. He handed her one. "This is too much," she said. He shook his head. "No, it's not." She smiled, then pointed at the others. "That's Lucy, Nora, and Rose. I'm Emma. We're the Hope girls." Hope Claire once said if she had a daughter, she'd name her Hope. He asked, almost whispering, "Where's your mom?" The tallest girl, Lucy, stepped closer, studying him like a scientist with a microscope. Nora coughed into her scarf, a dry, sharp sound that didn't belong to a child. And Rose. Rose was just watching him. Not scared, just curious. Then Emma said something that made Ethan's legs almost give out. "You look like the man in mommy's picture box." And just like that, they ran, buckets in hand, into the blur of the crowd. He didn't move. Couldn't. His heart was pounding. Back in his penthouse that night, he didn't notice the skyline. Didn't taste the scotch in his hand. All he saw were 4 faces wearing Claire's eyes. Could she have been telling the truth? Could she have really been pregnant that night 10 years ago, when he accused her of lying to trap him for his fortune? He opened a drawer, pulled out an old photo, Claire laughing in white. Himself younger, arrogant, proud, foolish. He remembered the argument, her tears, her voice breaking. "I'm pregnant, Ethan. These are your children." But he'd believed the doctors, the diagnosis, functionally infertile. Claire had to be lying, right? She left the next morning and never came back until today. He grabbed his phone, his voice shook. "Franklin, I need you to find someone. Claire Bennett and 4 little girls, possibly hers, possibly mine." The next morning at 6:45 a.m., Ethan Walker, former billionaire, former husband, former believer in logic, stood on the same street corner holding a lukewarm coffee. Waiting, they appeared at 8:47 right on cue. Emma carried 2 buckets. Lucy had a backpack almost as big as she was. Nora coughed again. And Rose, sweet Rose, clung to Emma's sleeve. He didn't approach them. Not yet. Instead, he crossed the street and watched from behind a bench. They moved in perfect rhythm like soldiers in a routine they knew too well. Set up the flowers, adjust the sign, count the money, smile when people passed. His phone buzzed. Franklin. We found her. Claire Bennett, Cranston Correctional Facility, serving 6 months for petty theft. She's 4 months and Ethan's knees nearly buckled. And the girl's living at Maple Grove Shelter under the care of a retired social worker named Margaret Davis. Thank you, Ethan said. I'll handle it from here. But how would he handle it? How do you face the past when it's standing right in front of you, with your eyes, your jaw, and a flower bucket? To be continued. We're so sorry to pause the story here, but the next part will absolutely break and heal your heart in the same breath. Now tell us in the comments, do you think Claire really tried to reach Ethan all those years ago? Or did someone stop her? If you were Ethan, would you believe what you saw or think it was just guilt playing tricks? Also, we'd love to know which country are you watching from. And if this story touched you even a little, please tap the heart and give us a like. It means more than, you know. The next morning, Ethan Walker didn't return to his office. He didn't check the markets or answer the board's growing list of messages. Instead, he borrowed an old pair of boots, pulled a cap low over his face, and walked into Maple Grove Shelter like a man trying to sneak back into the life he'd abandoned. Margaret Davis, the woman who ran the shelter, looked him up and down. She wasn't impressed. She'd seen the type suits who wanted to feel noble for a day, but there was something in Ethan's eyes that made her hesitate. You here to donate or decorate? She asked volunteer. He replied simply, kitchen's down the hall. We don't do chauffeurs or charity smiles here. Good, he said, cracking a dry smile. I left mine in the penthouse. That earned him a small grunt. Close enough to a laugh, inside the shelter buzzed with early morning energy. Bustling kids clattering pans. Someone playing an old guitar slightly out of tune. Ethan found the girls in the kitchen, elbows deep in dishwater and mismatched aprons. Emma noticed him first. Her eyes narrowed. Was it suspicion or recognition? Margaret introduced him casually. This is Parker. He's helping out today. Nora glanced at him and shrugged. Lucy tilted her head, studying his every move. But Rose smiled wide and said, You look different today. He chuckled. So do you, more soap on your face. She giggled and the tension cracked just enough to let warmth in. As they worked, Ethan noticed the way the girls moved together, like pieces of a single heartbeat. Every glance, every gesture had meaning. And though they didn't speak about it, he could see how thin Rose's arms were, how easily she tired. That cough, it wasn't just a cold. But how do you ask a child how long they've been sick without scaring them? Later that afternoon, Margaret handed Ethan a weathered binder. They call this their wish book. She said started it last year. I told them, if you write dreams down, maybe they'll come true. He opened it, page after page of crayon drawings, scribbled hopes and secret prayers. One page stopped him cold at the top in Lucy's neat handwriting. If we had a dad. Each girl had written a column, simple things. He would walk us to school. He would fix mom's kettle. He would like flowers even if boys made fun of him. He would come back. Ethan swallowed hard. That last line, he would come back, burned into his chest like a brand. What would you do if you read your daughter's dream and knew it was about you? That night he couldn't sleep. He kept hearing their voices, seeing their eyes, so he returned again. And again, every morning before sunrise, he washed dishes, sorted food, helped with tutoring. Slowly the girls let him in, though none more watchfully than Lucy. She never said much, but she watched. She watched how he folded napkins the same way Claire used to, how he leaned in when Rose coughed, how he carried the flower buckets like he'd done it 100 times before. She wasn't guessing, she was confirming. Then one chilly Friday, as the girls prepared their stand outside the shelter, Lucy asked him a question out of nowhere. What's your favorite flower? The kind of question that seems small until it isn't. I don't know, Ethan said honestly. Never thought about it. Everyone has one, she replied. Even if they don't know it yet, he thought of Claire back in their first apartment, how she'd always kept wild daisies on the windowsill. She said they were stubborn, grew anywhere, even in broken places. Daisies, he whispered. She liked daisies. She still does. Lucy said. Ethan's breath caught. You remember that? She tells us stories, Lucy said, about her garden, about someone who didn't appreciate it enough. That night, Ethan found a folded paper waiting on his cot, a drawing, 4 girls, a tall man. They were holding hands at the top in looping letters. If he stays, below it. Maybe. The next day, Lucy handed him another piece of paper, but this time her eyes were sharp. I know you're not just Parker, she said. Your hands look like mine. You don't smell like the shelter. You know too much about our mom. You look at Rose like someone scared to break. Ethan didn't speak. I'm not mad, she added. Not yet. But I want to know something. He held his breath. Are you staying or are you leaving again? His voice nearly cracked. I don't know all the answers. I just know I was wrong. I know I missed 10 years I'll never get back. I know I don't deserve your trust. But I'm not leaving. Not now. Not again. She nodded once. Ren Rose says people can change, even grown-ups. She's a wise little girl. She believes in happy endings, Lucy whispered. I'm still deciding. We're so sorry to pause the story here, but the next chapter is about to change everything. Now we want to hear from you. Do you believe people like Ethan deserve second chances, or are some mistakes unforgivable? If you were Lucy, would you trust him yet, or would you still wait? Also tell us in the comments, which country are you watching from? And if this story moved you even a little, please drop a heart and give the video a like. It helps more than, The storm came without warning. It started with a flicker, then darkness swallowed the shelter. The heaters died, the lights vanished. Someone screamed in the hallway, and the building sank into silence that felt too deep, too wide. Ruth Margaret lit a few emergency candles. The flickering glow danced across the girls' faces as they sat cross-legged on the floor, their shadows merging on the walls like one trembling heartbeat. Ethan stood in the doorway, coat dusted with snow. He wasn't wearing his armor anymore. No suit, no distance, just a man. And he stepped forward slow, deliberate. Can I sit with you? He asked Emma. Looked at him silent, Nora's fingers curled into her lap. Lucy stopped sketching. Only Rose patted the floor beside her. He lowered himself onto the cold tiles. I need to tell you something, he said softly, watching them one by one. Something I should have said a long time ago. The room held its breath. My name isn't Parker. My real name is Ethan Walker, and I'm your father. The silence was a living thing. Then Nora stood up, her voice rising. No, you're lying, I'm not, he said gently. I know I don't deserve your belief, but I'm not. You didn't want us. Emma said not, shouting, but her voice hurt. She told us without saying it. She cried every night, and you weren't there. I believed someone I shouldn't have. Ethan whispered. Someone who made sure I thought your mother was lying, that she was after my money, but she wasn't. She was protecting you. Lucy didn't speak, but she was watching. Rose looked up. Why didn't you look for us? I thought you didn't exist. Ethan said, I was broken. I believed I couldn't be a father. And that lie cost me 10 years of your lives. How do you tell children that your absence wasn't because you didn't love them, but because you were too afraid to believe? Emma blinked fast, holding back the weight in her chest. Nora crossed her arms but didn't leave. Lucy turned her notebook over and whispered, You still left, but you're here now. And Rose, ever so small, climbed gently into his lap. I believe you, she said. He wrapped his arms around her like she was made of light. Later that night, Rose collapsed. The cough that haunted her finally took hold. Too strong, too fast. She dropped to the floor near the water cooler, gasping. Ethan was there in seconds. Call 911, he shouted. The ambulance was a blur. Ruth and the girls followed close behind. At the hospital, a nurse asked him, Are you the guardian? He looked through the window at Rose, pale beneath the oxygen mask. Yes, he said, I'm her father. Later, the doctor emerged. She's stable, she said, but this will keep happening without proper care. Asthma, a heart murmur. Stress makes it worse. I'll do whatever it takes, Ethan said. No matter the cost, the doctor nodded. Then you should consider making it official. And he did. He signed the paperwork, filed for custody, arranged care, and finally called Claire. She didn't say hello, she just asked, "Is she okay?" "She's resting." He said, "She asked for you when the mask went on." Claire's breath caught. "Thank you for staying. I'm not going anywhere," Ethan replied. 3 weeks later, Claire stepped out of Cranston Correctional. She expected nothing, but there he was, Ethan holding a paper bag of groceries and a bouquet of stubborn daisies. She opened the door to her new apartment, clean, modest, but bright with possibility. Children's drawings lined the fridge. A blanket fort took over the living room. "You didn't have to do all this," she said. "I know," he replied. She nodded, but thank you. That afternoon, they sat together in the park. The girls were running wild, laughing, shouting about dragons, sunlight wrapped around them like a promise. Claire watched them with soft eyes. "She asked me," she said, "if she could still call me Mommy, even when I'm not perfect." "What did you say?" I told her. She never had to ask permission to love me. They sat in silence. Then Rose climbed into Ethan's lap, rested her head on his chest, and whispered, "Daddy, do you think people get to start over?" He looked at her, heart full. "Yes, if they're lucky," she smiled. "Then I think we're the luckiest family in the world." That night they ate spaghetti in mismatched bowls. Emma set the table, Lucy lit a candle, Nora picked the music, and Rose handed them a new drawing. 5 figures, 1 tall man, 4 girls, all holding hands above them. Not what we lost, what we found. Below that, in her neatest handwriting, our family. "We're so sorry to interrupt the story here, but now we want to hear from you. If you were Claire, would you have let Ethan back in? Why or why not? Do you think people truly can change if given the chance?" What did you think of this story? If you loved it, comment 3 below. If it felt just okay, drop a 2. If it didn't quite work for you, type 1 and let us know why. Also tell us which country are you watching from. And if this story touched your heart, tap the heart and share it with someone who still believes in second chances.